welcome back. Thank you for joining us at Ottawa Experts. If you've just joined us, I'm Moira Hutchison, here with my two guests, Caroline and Sarah, and we're talking about what it is to be stuck. And we're trying to share with you ideas of moving forward, getting unstuck. So and we touched about it in the last segment there, about being stuck is addictions. I don't like to use the word addictions because I'm not really talking about the big addictions, but more of like soft addictions. Obviously, any kind of addiction is an addiction, right? But soft addiction would be something like wondering what people think, always concerned about what people think. Mm-hmm. What comes to mind when we talk about addictions?
Well, when you're talking about that, I can certainly relate. I think that I definitely relate to that. I came from a family that, loved my parents, great people, but certainly, and I think it might be generational too, that it was very much about, how things mm-hmm. looked on the surface and mm-hmm. Making sure that, that we went to church on Sunday and that we had a healthy meal at dinner, and my mom stayed home and she was, the homemaker, and my father went out to work, and it was definitely this perfect family that we had, and it was certainly a great upbringing, but at the same time, it was very much part of our lifestyle, and we all sort of knew that a lot of what was going on was sort of surface. Mm-hmm. We didn't necessarily get into the deep issues and the deep stuff as even teenagers growing up. Sometimes we just didn't feel like we could go to our parents and talk about the tough mm-hmm. stuff because we wouldn't want them to think badly of us, or we didn't want to talk about those things, or we didn't really feel that they wanted to hear about the tough stuff. They would much rather just have us be the perfect family. And so
superficial.
For sure. Mm-hmm. And so again, and I love my mom dearly. My father just passed away. He was a great guy, but definitely that idea of this perfectionism, I think, stemmed for mm-hmm. me there, and that idea of appearance is what's really important, mm-hmm. Has stayed with me. And so I try to break free from that, a little bit, and over the years I have been able to, work on that. I still think that appearance is important, and I still probably worry more than I should about what people think. Mm-hmm. And so that's one stuck point that I've definitely had to work on.
I can relate. I think that's actually a big driving force behind a lot of people's issues of being stuck. Is not just about image. It's about. I've been married 3 times. I can remember being in my second relationship thinking, if I get out of this, it started to fall apart. If I get out of this, what are people going to think? There's something wrong with me because I don't stay in relationships. Right. So it's yes, for sure, image, but I think that the whole piece around what will people think I'm a failure, or that I'm a loser, mm-hmm. or that I'm fat, or that I'm a bad parent, or I'm, there's so many mm-hmm. pieces that come into that what will people think mm-hmm. piece, that I think that in itself can be an addiction. Mm-hmm. Is so hung up on, I have to do it this way because people will judge me in such a different way.
I agree, and I remember you and I had a conversation once, and you said, a lot of people make up stories about what people are thinking. Yeah. So, we're not only worrying about what people think, but we're making up stories about what they're actually even thinking. They may not even be thinking anything.
Well, that saying. There's a saying: "What other people think about me is none of my business." Mm. I actually really like that. It's a hard one to swallow, but it's really true. Yeah. Because I'm not. If I'm operating with honesty and integrity, then whatever you think is actually about you, not me.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, this conversation, because I hadn't thought about it until now, but I have perfectionistic tendencies too, and then I realized that maybe that really qualified me for all the work I've done in public relations. I was director of PR for 3 Canadian universities, and their image is critical.
Absolutely.
And so what you're trying to do is put forward the best possible image of whoever you're representing. Yep. And so I had to think about all of those things, and so image was like very critical.
Important. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you have another wee area that you've got a bit of a...
Yes, well, and actually it kind of stems out of that in a way.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I was director of an office where we had all kinds of information, right? Mm-hmm. We had information on everything. I worked for universities. And so the only difference there was that I had staff who helped and dealt with a lot of the paper that I still collect. Because of that background, I think, I just feel more secure having lots of paper around me, and it's something that I've been dealing with for the last decade, and I'm finding it quite a challenge. And so image is really important. I don't like people coming into my office, for example. So, because it's not pristine, it's not perfect the way I think it should be. And so then what happens is that when I walk into my office, I kind of beat myself up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm trying to ignore what that is, and luckily I can work in that kind of environment. It doesn't bother me to do that. I can focus and do things. I'm from a family of 5 children, so that's an easy thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it still is, it eats at me in terms of image.
Image, and then isn't it true to say that that's image, but that's on your perception of how other people would view you rather than it being real?
Like when you say you don't want people coming to see your office.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't want them to be judging.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, is that it's not that you are trying to do an image to somebody in particular. It's a general viewpoint of people will think this about me. Right. Which I've often said that to people, like it's fun to think about voices in your head and say, do you really know that to be true?
It's true.
Like, has somebody really come and said, Caroline, you shouldn't be holding on to all that paper?
Because I've been into her office and I didn't think
too,
a thing. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, lots of paper for sure, but that's your personality. I certainly didn't judge it.
Yeah. But it's because, and to be honest with you, that part doesn't matter. What matters is your opinion of it.
I know. I once hired somebody to come in and help me, and the worst part was asking her to come in. Right. It was. I thought, well, she's going to think this is like super messy, but she said it was nothing compared to what she normally deals with. Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about your own perception, as you said too. Right.
Yeah. And so that's something that I think is really important. Is that in that whole piece around what will people think, it's really important to own what it is you think too, and actually start pushing out the perceived or real judgments of other people. Because really, at the end of the day, if you want to get unstuck, you have to reconcile the different drives within you. One is to be that perfectionist, or to prove something to someone, and then the other one is to be at peace with yourself, or how you're doing it, and go with it, right? So to me, unstuck is really all about an inner dialogue that's ongoing, and actually allowing you to be the observed and the observer, which is.
In my case, I think with the paper too, is I've been thinking about this because it's and I think that there's fear of letting go of that information that I.
Like if you don't have it on paper, then you don't have it in your mind, or
or you don't you can't go and flick and find it. It's not necessarily that it's not in your mind. You just know that you can't then go flicking through it just in case somebody asks you a question. You think, oh, you know what? I've got
Where
something
is
in a
that
folder.
file?
Yeah, that's there. But one of these areas that about the being stuck is it's fear. It's fear, like really fear-based, because I mentioned earlier that one of my biggest stories of being stuck was that I was in a cult. But so at age 17 going on 18, which is not a good age to disappear from society, in effect, which is what I did for 2 years. And then in coming out, which was kind of a dramatic experience, which I've shared with you guys previously, but in coming out, the whole fear of, number one, I can't tell anybody where I've been, and how can I get into the workforce? I have no resume, I have no skill set, I have nothing that I can kind of say, here's what I'm good at. And so that driving force of the fear is and I hear that when you talk about the people coming into your office. It's that fear that makes you really get so focused on, this is the only way I can do this. Like, this is all I can do, and this is all I'm worthy of. Instead of like taking that needle out of that rut on the record, right?
And I was also reminded of even you said before about a comfort zone, and I think we get into that comfort zone. And when it comes to anything regarding being stuck, I think it's all about that comfort zone. Someone that I'm working with actually had a great analogy. He talked about the panic zone being way out here, and then and then the comfort zone being in the middle, and then the growth zone being right in between those two. And always sort of trying to do things in that growth zone so that you're not complacent, but that you're pushing yourself, but not beyond your reasonable limits.
That's the thing that says that success lies just outside of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And one expression I heard one time that I thought was really helpful was that you they always said, step out of your comfort zone. And then this person said, and step into your courage zone.
Nice.
And to me, it felt really good because
Yeah.
there was a place that you could go.
Yeah.
And then it felt grounded and it felt
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
And so you weren't just sort of up there in limbo somewhere.
Yeah. No, I like that.
I like that too.
You know, the other part of this whole area of the fear is the getting stuck and believing your own thoughts too. That can also be part of that fear of what other people think, is that if you had a mindset that you took on as a survival, like Sarah, you were sharing about how when you were upbringing, being brought up, that it was like the front, the image of the happy family, and so in essence, you bought into that at that point because that's how it was. But then what happens is we grow up, and the family dynamic's different, but you carry on believing that, and so that's part of challenging your own self. Is your belief supporting where you really want to be?
And I think what's really challenging about that too is that then when you decide that no, it's not, for example, then trying to relate to your family and still maintain a relationship with them,
Yes.
but also stand firm in that's not the way that I conduct myself or my life, or those are not my beliefs. It can become almost confrontational, with other family members. So I find that, we talked way earlier about, relationships. People can get really stuck in relationships. And I know for me, I'm the youngest of two children, and I always find that I'm still there. Like I'm still sort of as the little sister, and, I'm the youngest kid, and you sort of wonder, am I ever going to be able to, sort of be on my own and have that, maybe it's the respect that we're looking for, and you feel like you make achievements and you have successes in your life, but you're still sort of perceived as this person that you were when you were 17 or 18 or whatever.
Right.
And so I think that that's certainly part of the stuckness.
I agree,
in relationships.
but I can't think that is a belief that could be questioned.
Definitely.
Right, because really that sometimes it's just in sitting in that question and asking yourself, is that the truth? And maybe even asking the family members, how do you see me? And actually getting,
Can you imagine? That's a great dinner time conversation right there. Awesome.
I'm just thinking in my family what that would result in.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's an idea.
Maybe we play that one out mentally.
Yes, maybe.
Everyone thinks we're great.
Exactly. So please stay tuned. We're going to discuss some other ways that you can do now to get unstuck right away. Thanks for joining.